Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. Understanding accumulation and the beginning of a new cycle is the best opportunity that we have to be able to get in, get the best entries, and then ultimately look to hold the long-term trend. Most people don't understand exactly how to spot accumulation, what is accumulation versus what is something that's just going to resolve to more downside. So for today I figured it would be a great opportunity to actually break down two altcoins that I think are providing some of the best long-term accumulation setups that we're seeing out of the rest of the market. Two altcoins that have a significant use case going into this next cycle, why there's narratives being driven behind these, and how you guys are actually going to be able to spot accumulations very similar to the ones in these two charts, and how to go about finding them in further markets moving forward into this next cycle. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, here we are to start off today's video. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Bitcoin, talking about the short-term price action. We're going to be comparing it to the S&P 500, and then we're going to be talking about the accumulations. We're not going to spend a ton of time inside of this Bitcoin chart, but for the short term, it is important that we talk about what is going on. Now in today's video, more or less what we've seen in the last, few hours, Bitcoin had this big move to the upside, and it did have actually a bull trap. We retested the previous low. This was actually a lower high, retested the prior support, now resistance. Then we can see that we got this bearish pin hammer candle that came in here. And this is a really bearish setup, mainly because anytime we have these big wicks, you're generally going to see exhaustion. In the same way that we saw this exact same candlestick happen right here, and then we got this big correction, or kind of in the same that we saw it right here or right here. They're generally exhaustion candles one way or another. They can also be on the opposite end, and you see these right before reversals happen. It was more or less the bulls coming back up, retesting the highs of the move, and now the bears have fully cemented in that yes, we're unable to hold support up here. This is resistance and the trend is continuing to the downside. When we get in here on the shorter time frames, we can see that we had this bearish engulfing candle, and we're now just kind of closing back down below this prior support where we initially bounced at about $29.3 thousand. So if I had to guess, my opinion is that we're most likely going to close below this, and we're going to fall once again lower to probably 29,150. That would be the next area of demand that I see inside of the Bitcoin chart, but it really depends on what happens with the S&P 500. And that's what I've been talking with you guys about a lot, has been watching when the market bottoms for the SPX, because whenever the SPX bottoms, that's where we're going to see Bitcoin bottom as well. And that's generally been the case. In fact, inside of the crypto markets, what we see is Bitcoin leads, then altcoins follow, and that's always been the case throughout, basically every single cycle. And whenever we're watching the S&P 500, we're actually seeing kind of the same similarities in relationship where the S&P 500 will lead, then Bitcoin will kind of follow. And so we've seen that a lot inside of the last couple cycles. But inside of, the last couple months, when the S&P 500 made this breakout, when the S&P 500 made this breakout, we didn't really see Bitcoin do a whole lot. And even when the SPX was making this big run up here, Bitcoin started to kind of break out, but for the most part, Bitcoin and crypto didn't do a whole lot the entire time that the S&P 500 was breaking out. And so I do believe that there will be a point where Bitcoin's going to break out. It will be in the next wave up. But like I stated, generally we've been lagging throughout this entire run up to this point. So from June, we topped over here, basically June and July. And so as the stock market, so it was about right here, the stock market broke out, S&P 500 broke out, flipped this resistance at 4,300, and then throughout this entire second run up that the S&P 500 have, we never really saw Bitcoin do anything. In fact, it's been correcting throughout that entire time. So I do believe that there's going to be another point where Bitcoin takes another leg up, the stock market takes a leg up, but it's going to happen once this correction is actually over. So that's the big thing that we're watching right now in the shorter time frames. Now, what I was watching for over here was the potential of us actually breaking out of this little wedge that we were creating. And this was a potential where we end up holding better support than coming all the way back down to this $4,300 level. But as you guys can tell, we're pretty much right there at the last moment where this could hold support, and it's not looking like we're probably going to. So we're going to watch and see, but at the end of the day, as of right of this video and this second, it's looking a little bit more bull trappy. But, you know, if we get a big green candle that comes in here, you know, we basically engulf the prior selling candle, then I think that at that point we could make a serious case that this is a bullish breakout. But like I stated, you know, we're pretty much right here at that descending resistance, and you know, we have had this big move to the downside. We're not really looking like we're going to hold support, but anything can change. This is only on an hourly time frame, so we can definitely see that. But if we're getting out here, if we get out here on a little bit of a bigger time frame and remove this, we have this same sort of candle right here, this bearish pin hammer, and we can see that we have 3.5 hours until the close. So if this closes looking like this, I am definitely going to assume that we're going to go lower. So the bigger time frames do look a little bit more bearish, but keep in mind that one more low will easily put us in trajectory where this could be the end of the correction. Just like how we're looking over here at this wedge, I think that based off the Elliott wave count, what we're looking at in here is either, if we don't bottom here, which I don't generally think that we're going to, one more low is going to be looking like that's 5 waves down. And so I don't necessarily think that we're going to have to go all the way back down and tag this exact level being 43.25. One more low will put us in sufficient territory for us to bottom, and then from there I do anticipate a pretty large breakout coming for the stock market. So the next leg up for the stock market is going to be putting us back into all-time highs and new all-time highs. Yes, times are hard, gas prices are going up, there's certain dynamics that, you know, certain people are drawing conclusions to, but when we're talking in terms of the Federal Reserve, which is really the ultimate dictation of what happens with our economy, there's nothing so far that is dictating a recession. In fact, that they're showing all of the data presented by the Federal Reserve is actually showing that the markets are strong. So it's no question why the stock market is making a big tear, and why we're most likely going to continue to see this run going strong. Now, with Bitcoin, we're just watching the same exact things, right? So when the stock market bottoms in here, one more low is what it's looking like. That'll probably take us back down to 4,400 and potentially down to about 4,350. That's the area of demand I'm watching for this next low. But once that low is had, I do believe that we're going for the all-time highs. And so during that move is where we're going to expect to see Bitcoin make the run to 40 and 50K. And so I'm anticipating Bitcoin's next leg up to be this type of a move, more of a blow off top, so to speak. I think that this has been kind of the build-up in a similar sort of degree like what we saw over here, and we're only missing that final move to finish it off. The one reason why I really do think that our cycle is behaving similarly up to this point is because the consistency of the uptrend that led to a 618 retest being near those all-time highs. The way that the cycle looks right now, we're either going to front run this cycle and, you know, start breaking out into new all-time highs way quicker than ever before, which in my opinion would be a warning sign going into this cycle that it'll probably top early. However, if we end up following a normal cycle, you know, we make this blow off top that takes us upwards of 50K, 48.5 to be exact. Then we get this top, you know, we can go through a long period of consolidation, and who knows how low we go, but the bigger the move up, if we go all the way to the 618, I am going to anticipate a decent size correction. We don't have to do 72%. I'm not anticipating, you know, a COVID 2.0. Anything's possible, but this was a black swan, so we don't always have any sort of, so we can't predict those sort of things. It is possible that that could happen again, but I don't think that we have to go all the way back down. To have another one of these, we would basically be going back down to this 20 or 20K level. It's even sub 20K. That would be the consistency of what we would expect to see if we were to see another COVID type of crash. I don't think that we're going to do that. I think that we would hold somewhere around 25K. We would probably retest the same level that we're breaking out from, that's been so important for us for the last little while. And so that's kind of what I think would end up happening, leading into some type of blow off top, breaking out of all-time highs, mid-2024, maybe even into 2025. So when we're looking at Bitcoin, that's kind of the thought process that I'm having. If we front run and we start breaking into all-time highs, I'm just anticipating an early cycle top, because that will be the first time that we've broke all-time highs, you know, doing so in sub 1,100 days. Every one of our other cycles has taken over 1,000 days minimum to break those all-time highs. So if we're doing that so soon, it will be a little bit of a red flag for me personally. Now guys, let's get into the altcoins I wanted to share with you, talk about accumulation, talk about how to spot it in the market. 2 altcoins that I think are going to be breaking out very soon. Alrighty guys, this is one we talked about yesterday, and that is Chainlink. I really like the accumulation inside of Chainlink because out of the entire market, it's one that has been super consistent. It's trended in, arguably the tightest range out of the entire market, and it's getting ready, in my opinion, to be breaking out of this channel. And so this is one of my favorite setups because there's a few different factors at play. Elliott waves look phenomenal. Not only did the Elliott waves look good, the bear market correction follows a 4-year cycle, and then we see over a year of sideways accumulation from that point. Now, what separates accumulation from distribution leading into a lower low? A lot of people are going to say, well, this thing's definitely just going to go for one more final low. It'll fake out again, and then it'll do that. And we'll have one final capitulation. And while anything is possible, I don't think that that's the case based off of the last attempt that we had, because that was more consistent with this kind of false, that was consistent with a false breakdown. We saw this big sell-off that took place, and this led to, we ended up even making a lower low for a couple days, but we instantly rebounded right back at that level. It wasn't consistent enough with a true breakdown. This ended up being a bear trap, and now after that point, we've actually seen a very strong impulse, and I do strongly believe, 3 times for the emphasis, that this is going to be making a big breakout soon. So what we see here based off the Elliott waves, we see really consistent Elliott waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 up. Very impulsive wave 5, which is generally what we're going to see inside of a crypto market. Now after that, we saw an ABC, but this ABC held support way higher than you would generally see in a one wave impulse. The higher that the wave 1 impulse holds support, and any wave for that matter, the higher that the wave 2 holds support, the more impulsive the wave 3 should be. And it's not always a given, but that's something that I've seen, and because we're holding it at the 382, a lot of the times these one waves will come all the way back down to the 6, and even the 786 to the 88.3. They can almost fully retrace 99% of the entire move. So a one wave can go way lower in the correction. So the fact that it's held all the way up here at the 382, even higher than sometimes the wave 4 impulse holds, depending on the chart, I do believe that this one's getting ready to send it, and this will be the moment of time where we finally leave accumulation. So anybody that's looking for a long-term setup, I think that you can't go wrong with Chainlink. It's one of my favorite long-term holds. Been holding it since all the way back down in here in early 2020, and I'm going to be looking to hold it the entirety of this coming bull cycle. Now, when we're looking at this cycle specifically, one other thing we're looking at is time. The more time that we spend going sideways, the bigger and quicker the breakout's going to be, and we've spent 455 days so far inside of this range. And so because we're seeing our first one wave impulse, we're seeing wave 1. I believe that wave 3 is coming in next, and I don't know exactly how high it's going to go, but don't be surprised if wave 3 comes all the way up to like $18. We get something like this, and then we still have one more, wave 5 coming after that. I don't know how high it's going to go, but like I've stated, I believe Bitcoin's coming up here to the 618. We'll get a complete 618 retest, and for you guys that don't understand what that is, the 618 is going to be right at that level, and it'll mimic the same 618 retest that we saw back in 2019. So if we see Bitcoin do that, and I've already shown with you guys the video yesterday talking about how ETH is going to go to that same exact level, maybe even higher than that, it's not very hard to imagine that these altcoins are going to do kind of the same thing. Now, I'm not saying that every one of them are going to outperform or even go as good as Bitcoin does. I think that a lot of these will make pretty good impulses, but they probably aren't going all the way up to this top. It is possible, don't get me wrong, and that's why I say the best thing that we can do is just look to be buying down here and not worrying about it when it goes up like that. You can definitely look to take profits, but for me it's like, regardless of how high this impulse goes, whether we go all the way up to the top of this, if we start hitting the top of this B wave, I'm probably going to take some profits. I mean, I just can't resist that because it's just the most obvious resistance on the entire chart. We have this resistance and we have this resistance here. This is $29 and this is $38. Based off of how many X's you would find after that breakout from where we're at today, to $17 you're looking at a 1.37x, to $29 you're looking at almost a 3x, and up here to 37 it's almost a 4x. So if I got a 4x really quickly, I would definitely anticipate some type of a correction, right? And that correction could take us all the way back down near to the highs of this range. I don't know how crazy of a correction that we're going to get. But the bigger that the impulse is, the deeper of a correction I will be expecting. So if this thing runs all the way up here, I'm going to expect us to come back down to probably $13 to $15. I would say $13 to $18. We might not come all the way back down that far, but around that range would put us in consistent territory with, any type of impulse and correction to begin a new cycle. So when I'm looking at this, I really think that Chainlink is going to be one of the big ones to pay attention for. And at $4 billion in market cap, I still think it's relatively undervalued, and you can still get pretty decent upside for a safe bet moving into this cycle. So that's one that I'm telling you guys to pay attention, because this is kind of the last opportunity to buy it. I really think that the next impulse is going to be the one where we're breaking out of the range. And these type of breakouts are usually the ones that happen so quick that if you weren't prepared beforehand, you just miss out or you buy the top. So next up on today's list is actually going to be Dogecoin, another one we talked about in yesterday's video. And this is kind of going to go for the exact same reasons as the other one, where every single one of these are about to make a significant breakout, and they're getting ready to leave their accumulation range. With Dogecoin, just to the next resistance, you're looking at like 36%, and most likely this one's going to go to a minimum of 1x. Now, like I've been saying for you guys, the reason why I think that this is going to blow up is because we have Elon Musk that's rebranded Twitter to X. He's already gotten approved for a banking license, and he's already said that he's going to make Dogecoin the payment system of X. So I really think that that's all huge reasons, and we saw what Elon Musk was able to do with Dogecoin in the last cycle. This thing exploded in a massive, massive way. And so I think that it's very apparent that he's going to be able to do that again. And so while we're in the bottom of this accumulation range, specifically, we've been inside of this for 422 days now. So once this thing breaks out, what it's going to end up looking like is going to be something like this. It's going to make this quick sort of breakout, and it could, run all the way up to the top of this B wave if it wants to get real impulsive. That's why I'm saying that we have Elon Musk here to kind of really drive momentum to these things. And I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen. I'm saying that that is a potential that can happen because of the fact it is who he is, and we saw what he was able to do in the last cycle. So it really only takes one tweet, one announcement, something simple like that to really get a big breakout. And when you have those sort of narratives, the richest man in the world, owner of Tesla and Twitter, says something like that, or at this point, he's not just going to be able to say Dogecoin, because if he has a banking license, it's only going to be market manipulation at that point. So I believe that the only way that Dogecoin is going to go up is with him actually announcing some type of legitimate partnership. And like I've stated, I think that that's going to be the moment of truth with all of this stuff coming out around the banking license. That could be the thing that actually breaks this out, which if that's the case, don't underestimate the potential where we go a 3.5x all the way up to 33 cents, because that's probably what's going to happen. And that's why I say, guys, one of the best cycles we can compare this to is going back and taking a look at Bitcoin in 2015, because it did this exact same sort of setup. And that's why I love this pattern so much, is because that was when I first got into crypto. I bought Bitcoin at $450 right here, right before we made that next leg up. And so that was initially where I put all my money I ever had at that time into crypto. And so it's funny to me how it looks exactly the same. The market cycle looks exactly the same as this Bitcoin cycle did here. You have the same exact lower high that formed in here, leading to capitulation. You have the same blow off top type capitulation, or not capitulation, but the same blow off top, same reaccumulation before the blow off top. And what I am anticipating is where we're going to see this type of a breakout too. And now notice how the breakout in Bitcoin cycle right here, it didn't come all the way back up to the top of the lower high. It kind of made this short breakout and then just retested the top, and then consolidated in an ascending triangle before just making consistent higher highs and higher lows. I think that Dogecoin's probably going to break out a lot quicker. I mean, this was a quick breakout, but it'll probably be a little bit bigger at the same time, just because of the fact it's an altcoin, and you have Elon Musk that's going to be driving the price. So something like this, where we get this strong breakout, maybe it only goes to 24 cents. We don't go quite as high. But either way, expect a correction back down to retest the top end of that range, kind of in the same way that we did right here. I will expect something like that. And then, maybe we finish off with one more final impulse like that. I'm personally just anticipating that we're not going to be doing anything real crazy. until mid-2024, and what I mean real crazy is breaking out and going into new all-time highs. I think that we're going to be making consistent higher highs and higher lows, tons of money to be made nonetheless because we're buying down here at the bottom, but we have to remember that in the same kind of way that it's taken a long time for Bitcoin to build up to breaking out, we're probably going to do the same sort of thing in these altcoins as well, even if the market breaks out a little bit bigger, because the bigger the breakout, if we make a run all the way back up to 38 cents or whatever it was, I'll still expect that we're going to make a big correction all the way back down to probably 17 cents or maybe even all the way back down to 16 or 15 cents just to retest this entire high, because the top of this high was support all the way throughout here in the beginning of our bear market, right? So that's going to be the area of demand whenever we end up making the end of this move. So a correction all the way back down there will be consistent with what I'm expecting, and it might take us a long time before we're ever at the point of us actually breaking out. Like I stated, spring to mid-2024, we'll probably have some type of long-term accumulation like this, and then that'll lead us into new all-time highs, and we'll do something glorious like that. But every single new cycle has to have the beginning impulse, the beginning correction, and then usually that's the foundation to go into all-time highs. Sometimes it's multiple impulses, like what we saw in 2017, where it was like 3 to get to the point of breaking out. The bigger the impulse, the bigger the correction. So if Dogecoin runs to 38 cents, I'm not expecting that we're going to be making, multiple short little pumps. We'll be making one big one and one big correction. So you just got to keep things in mind. Everything's relative. We don't know 100%, but the way that the cycles look, the way I've seen cycles play out, this is really no different than any of the millions of the other ones that I've seen. One thing I want to look at right here. So with Bitcoin Cash, a lot of people are going to be asking me, why in the crap are you talking about this? This thing is dead. But the truth of the matter is, none of these altcoins are dead. And all of these has been on these massive, massive accumulation trends. And people are going to say, no, this is not accumulation. These are dead. But the truth of the matter is, none of these are actually showing any sort of resemblance of it being dead. What we see in every single one of these charts, all of these OG altcoins, is clear Elliott waves. Even though it was a lower high in comparison to 2017, we have to understand that the market conditions in our last cycle were different than 2017. We saw your general ABC correction, perfect Elliott waves even inside of the ABC. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Everything is so symmetrical, following exact technical analysis through Elliott waves that we would want to see. And now we went sideways for all of this time, and then Bitcoin Cash just made this instant breakout. And we went from $100 all the way to $330. So the reason I bring this up is because when altcoins start to move, they move a lot quicker than people are anticipating. Everybody thinks that they're dead until all of a sudden they awaken from the depths of the ocean and then just swallow everything up. That's what happens every time. And the thing is, most people don't realize that because they only have last cycle to go off of. And last cycle wasn't even comparable with many other ones. And I would know because I got in 2016, was learning how to trade throughout all of 2016 and 2017. So I saw what the entirety of a full crypto cycle looks like, and our last one just wasn't even in comparison. Now, when we're looking at our Elliott waves, this is a crypto that everybody thinks is dead. Everybody thinks that there's nothing that's going to happen with this, and you're going to have people that are hating in the comment section about me talking about this entirely, but the truth of the matter is this. This is a perfect one-wave impulse. And like I've stated at the beginning of the video, wave 2 can correct all the way and almost fully retrace the beginning of the wave 1. So that's not anything that we haven't seen. But the fact that we trended sideways and then broke out tells me that there's plenty of value still inside of this market. And when we're looking at this, we're anticipating a wave 3 impulse coming next. And so a lot of people are going to say that this is never going to go even to the prior all-time highs. But when we look at these markets, we have minimum targets that we can reach based off of Fibonacci. And the minimum target that we would have to hit is at least 2,588. But in a wave 3, you're generally going to see it come all the way up to the 2,618 and even higher, which is putting us pretty close to that all-time high threshold. So even if this thing doesn't do, new all-time highs, big move like what maybe Ethereum did in its last cycle, I do expect that these are going to still make big impulses and continue to uptrend throughout the entirety of our next move. So this is something that's happening that I've been talking about, why I believe 2017 altcoins were going to have a new cycle, why it was going to be closer to 2017. And this one kind of cemented to me why I believe that was so. And what we're seeing it do right now, to just wrap things up here, we're seeing it make the first higher high of the new trend. this was the prior, remember when we first made this capitulation? This was our first impulse right here. Wave 1, wave 2. Now, this was the resistance that it had, and we held support of that throughout all the way up here. COVID, it even held above. After COVID, we held support here for a month or two. Actually, this was actually almost 3 months that we held support. And then even in the bear market, this became kind of the area of demand. Now, for us to be breaking back above and now retesting this as support, this is the perfect setup right before this thing's about to make another leg up. And I'm telling you guys that many of these old altcoins that many have written off are going to surprise a lot of people. This is one of the only altcoins that's available on PayPal. So there's more going for this than arguably almost all of the altcoins out there that people are holding already. So to say these are dead, in my opinion, is a small-minded perspective. I want to ultimately share with you guys how things are going to be different this cycle. This is my 7th year, 3rd cycle. I've had the opportunity of studying many of the prior cycles, looking through altcoins, looking through prior history, studying charts. And what I see in this one is going to be the biggest one of all time. And I'm going to continue to stick to that analysis as much as people disagree. I really do think that that's the case. So focus on the long term. I'll keep you guys updated. If you guys want to follow what I'm posting, any trades that I'm taking, anything that I'm doing with my money, you can join the Discord server. I have a VIP program inside of there. Links are in the description to actually go ahead and sign up on my website. I appreciate all of the support from the bottom of my heart. You guys mean the world to me. And I'm so thankful to see the markets breaking out, because this ultimately leads one way, and I know that you guys are going to be able to capitalize it full cycle. So thank you all so much for watching this. And with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.